When a private family dispute explodes into the public arena, it stops being just about the family. It becomes a live-action case study in power, perception, and the high-stakes game of controlling a narrative. Welcome to Africa Watch 360. Calm, clear, and focused news you can trust. We look deeper so you understand better.
And this is the quote that flipped the entire chessboard. This single, explosive accusation from actress Regina Daniels against her husband, Senator Ned Nwoko, is the pivot on which this whole story turns. It's a statement that didn't just counter his claims, it completely reframed the entire conflict. What was being painted as a story of a husband's concern over addiction suddenly became a much darker narrative about alleged manipulation and complicity. In one sentence, a private matter became a public spectacle.
So how did we even get here? To really get a handle on this firestorm, you have to go back to the spark that lit the fuse. And that spark was the arrest of Regina Daniels' brother, Sammy. That single event took what was clearly a simmering, private family conflict and threw it right out into the court of public opinion.
And things moved incredibly fast from there. First, Sammy was remanded and sent to prison. Almost immediately, that triggered a massive wave of public outcry online. The pressure built up so quickly that he was granted bail and released. Now, while his legal troubles weren't necessarily over, his release really marked the end of Act 1, and it set the stage for the public war of words that was about to erupt.
You know, the public outcry wasn't just random online chatter. It got amplified. A lot. High-profile individuals stepped into the ring, which gave the situation some serious weight. We're talking about fellow actress Mercy Johnson, who reportedly used her influence, and then you have Omayele Sowore, an activist and former presidential candidate, who was very public with his support, even showing up in person. This tells you the situation struck a much deeper chord than just celebrity gossip.
Let's just boil this whole thing down to make it simple. Think of it like a neighborhood dispute. On one side, you have a powerful, wealthy family patriarch. He accuses his wife's brother of being a toxic influence, a bad seed. From his perspective, he's just protecting his wife and his home. But then you look at it from the other side. The brother and his family claim this powerful man isn't protecting anyone. He's systematically cutting his wife off from her own family, her support system, to maintain absolute control. See? Two completely different realities that just can't exist at the same time. That's the core of the conflict.
Okay, so with public pressure mounting and the narrative slipping away from him, Senator Ned Nwoko made a very strategic move. He didn't just tweet a denial. He released a long, detailed official statement. The objective here was crystal clear: seize control of the story and frame his actions not as punitive, but as protective.
His statement was built on several pillars. First, and most importantly, he claimed Regina was in rehabilitation for drug dependence. Second, he painted her siblings, especially Sammy, not as supporters but as enablers who are actively sabotaging her recovery. He then alleged Sammy's behavior was aggressive and disrespectful, which is why he had to be physically removed. He also dismissed that viral video of the confrontation as a totally staged Nollywood scenario. And finally, he made sure to establish his role as the financial provider for the entire family.
And to really anchor that claim of financial support, he didn't just speak in generalities. He put a very specific number on the table: 125 million naira. He alleges that's how much he transferred to Regina's mother alone in just the last 2 years. Now, that's not just a number. It's a strategic tool. It's meant to portray him as this incredibly generous patriarch whose kindness was being repaid with chaos and disrespect.
And again, he didn't just make vague accusations. He gave specific, frankly alarming, details to justify his actions. This quote is a perfect example. By describing behavior like going for 48 hours without sleeping, he's trying to frame his decision to seek rehabilitation for Regina as an absolute necessity, the desperate act of a concerned husband, not the calculated move of a controlling one. It's a very direct appeal for public empathy.
All right, so after Senator Nwoko laid out his entire case, the ball was squarely in the other court. And Regina Daniels and her family, they fired back. But they didn't just deny his claims. They constructed a powerful, point-by-point counter-narrative that set up a head-on collision between two completely different versions of reality.
I mean, just look at how these two narratives stack up. It's night and day. He claims he was restricting access for her rehabilitation. She claims he was isolating her for total control. He calls her family negative enablers. She calls them her only support system. He says he's protecting her from self-destruction. She says he's manipulating her to stay in the relationship. Every single point of contention is seen through two completely opposite lenses.
There is no middle ground here. And this is where the story takes its most dramatic, unexpected turn. Regina makes a truly stunning admission. Yes, she used drugs. But in the very same breath, she detonates the entire narrative he built. She claims Ned Nwoko didn't just know about it, he actively encouraged it. And the alleged reason? Because, in her words, he found her sexier when high. Just like that, she transforms herself from the subject of a concerned intervention into the alleged victim of his manipulation. It's a game-changing move.
And if you thought that was the final twist, you were wrong. Then came the legal bombshell. She drops this line almost as an afterthought, questioning the very foundation of their entire relationship. By claiming they were never legally married in a court of law, she's not just threatening divorce. She is suggesting their marriage is fundamentally invalid. This has massive implications for any potential separation, for finances, for everything. It's a high-stakes claim that changes the entire legal landscape of this dispute.
Now, as it always happens in these high-profile conflicts, the fire didn't stay contained between just the two of them. It started to spread, drawing in other people, and each one added a new, complicated layer to the public drama. The court of public opinion was in full session, and more people were being called to the stand, whether they wanted to be or not.
So who else got pulled into this vortex? Well, you have Ned's ex-wife, Laila, who started posting these cryptic messages about building my peace, which everyone immediately interpreted as a subtle jab at the ongoing chaos. Then Regina's other brother, Swizzy, came out to directly deny Ned's claim that he paid for his master's degree. And fellow actress Sonia Uche suddenly found herself named by Ned as one of the enablers, forcing her into the spotlight to deny it. The ripple effect was just getting wider and wider.
Okay, so let's take a step back from the he said, she said for a moment and look at the strategic layer underneath all of this. Because in a public battle like this, every statement, every post, every quote is a move on a chessboard. We have to analyze the potential strategies, the recurring themes of control, and of course, the consequences of all these public revelations.
Now, there's a framework that can help us analyze the claims Regina's making, and it's called coercive control. This isn't about one single act of violence. It's about a pattern of behavior designed to isolate, humiliate, and control someone over time. So when Regina alleges that she was locked up, had her phones taken, was declared mentally unstable whenever she tried to leave, and was cut off from her family, those accusations, if true, align with the textbook definition of this pattern. It provides a lens through which to understand her side of the story.
This brings us to what might be the most crucial strategic question in this whole affair. On the surface, admitting to drug use sounds like a massive mistake, right? Something that could damage her credibility, maybe even impact custody of her children. But was it a mistake? Or was it an incredibly calculated risk? Think about it. By putting the information out there herself, on her own terms, she completely neutralizes it as a threat. It can no longer be held over her head as blackmail or leverage. She took his biggest weapon, owned it, and then turned it back on him. A move that is either incredibly reckless or strategically brilliant.
So when you strip away all the noise, all the accusations and denials, the real question is this: who is actually shaping the direction of the situation and to what end? What is the ultimate goal here? Is it reconciliation, a favorable legal outcome, or is it simply about winning the war in the court of public opinion? And that brings us to the bigger picture. How does a very public, very raw battle like this shift the conversations people are having in their own homes about marriage, about wealth, and about control? How does this affect the community and the future people are trying to build? How do you people see this whole thing? Drop your opinion in the comment section.
If this breakdown gave you some clarity, remember to like, subscribe, and share. Let's continue the conversation.